Folks, let's welcome in our panel, former NYPD Commissioner and friend of mine, Bernie Kerik, and Betsy Branter-Smith, a former Chicago police officer and National Police Association spokesman. So, Commissioner, I'll go to you first. Time and time again, I was just talking to Senator Rick Santorum. Why are we demonizing police officers for doing what they must do in appropriate levels of force? And oftentimes we're seeing these police officers go to trial and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars, lose their homes, lose their everything about them to pay these legal fees. And then when the state comes out and says, oh, you know what, turns out you were right, they're just like, oh man, now I'm screwed because I'm paying all these legal fees.
Well, listen, Carl, one of the big problems is that you have the bad guys today are emboldened by the politicians. You have governors that are signing into law legislation that, for bail reform, for example, that in New York City lets 83% of the gun runners or the people in possession of guns lets them go immediately. Mm-hmm. You have district attorneys like Alvin Bragg in New York City. It basically says he's not going to prosecute certain crimes. Many of them are violent crimes. And then you have mayors like de Blasio and others, mayors like in Atlanta, in Milwaukee, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, that are these far left-wing radical mayors that will not support the cops. They won't indemnify the cops when there's an act in question. And the cops, a lot of them are afraid to go out and do their job.
Yeah, it's crazy. So Betsy, I want to get your take on that. Bernie brought up guns. Okay, this is the thing. Like, I'm an avid gun owner. I make exorbitant leaps and bounds to make sure that I am abiding by the law on this, which is very difficult because I live in Connecticut, so there's a lot of stupid laws. I work in Manhattan, and I can't carry my gun here. But yet, I'm a former Navy SEAL, NRA instructor, all these different things. However, all these criminals around me that are jumping turnstiles and breaking into things and lighting things on fire, they're carrying guns. They get arrested for, robbing a bank or whatever it may be. They don't get charged with a gun crime. Yet I'm not allowed to protect myself. Why is that?
Well, Carl, and you're absolutely right. In my native Chicago, and I was a suburban police officer in Chicago, it was so difficult to be able to carry a gun if you were not a police officer or private detective. What the gun laws often do is take away that ability for citizens like you to be able to protect themselves. We're hearing Mayor Adams in New York, and of course we hear Lori Lightfoot in Chicago talk about, we've got to have more gun laws, more gun control. There is no more gun controlled places than Chicago and New York and LA and Seattle. And yet it's really the law-abiding citizens who end up having a problem. Look, police officers, line-level police officers, like armed, trained citizens. Yeah. But yet we hear from police leadership, not people like Commissioner Kerik, but other police leaders who say, oh, we want more gun control. Right. No, line-level cops like armed, trained citizens who are able to protect themselves. And quite frankly, now is the time for our citizens not to just support us, law enforcement, but to be able to protect themselves, because there are less and less cops in so many areas.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that point up, because people like look, if the criminals know that there's a bunch of armed citizens, like Plano, Texas, gun capital of the world, where like per capita is like 80 guns per household, like guess what? There's a zero murder rate there. Can't say the same about Chicago or Manhattan. We have a soundbite from the widow speaking at her husband's funeral on Friday afternoon about how tragic the police department has had to deal with so many of these things. I want you to take a listen.
The system continues to fail us. We are not safe anymore. Not even the members of the service. I know you were tired of these laws, especially the ones from the new DA. I hope he's watching you speak through me right now.
You can see, Bernie, the resounding round of applause from the people in that chapel are the upper brass. Your previous position and some of the people below you. They are like, yeah, we do not like this DA. How does that make you feel?
It sickens me. You know, that DA sickens me. He shouldn't be in office. The governor, just based on his policies and the things he has talked about doing or not doing, he should have been removed already by the governor. I do, Carl, want to give a shout out and a major thank you to the police commissioner, the NYPD. Yesterday, she basically promoted Jason Rivera to first grade detective for the purpose of taking care of his family.
Good.
But that shouldn't have had to happen. And Alvin Bragg is one of the main reasons that criminals in New York City feel that they can go around and shoot cops, get involved in extreme violence, do the things they're doing, because Bragg has already said he's not going to lock them up. And I'm telling you, the blood is on his hands of many in New York City, but he's endangering every New York City cop that works in Manhattan.
Yeah. Betsy, I want to give you a couple seconds to react to that.
Well, absolutely. Around the country, Carl, things that are happening, all of the political rhetoric, police are bad, police are the danger to the community, the police are not the problem, and all this anti-cop rhetoric combined with the de-prosecution of these Soros-installed prosecutors, like the commissioner said, are endangering American law enforcement and endangering our citizens, the citizens we are trying to protect.
Yeah, Betsy, I got about 15 seconds left. Do you think the DA, though, is going to see an entire standing ovation of people against them and say, wow, maybe I better change my policing policy or my prosecution policy?
No, and I can see the commissioner shaking his head. No, he is not. He was installed for a reason, and that is to be a pro-criminal prosecutor. It's the people that are going to have to stand up and demand that prosecutors like him are removed, and we've got to go back to law and order.
Yeah, it is absolutely crazy that we're even having this conversation right now about this. It should be the other way around. Bernie, Betsy, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.